Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. On today's show, we're talking about a flurry of new capabilities just being released in Claude, and more specifically, how these new tools can take real work off your plate as a real estate investor. I know it's been said a gazillion times, the rate of change here is unprecedented, and it truly is unprecedented. What I'm telling you right now on today's show is going to be out of date in a week. That's how quickly things are changing. Now, there's a big difference between a technology that's interesting and a technology that's useful. Now, this is a real estate podcast, not a technology podcast. For a long time, AI has sat in this category of things that are interesting. It could summarize an article, write a paragraph, maybe help you brainstorm a marketing idea, but that's not where the real leverage is. Those things are helpful, but it's not enough. Real leverage comes when the technology stops being a novelty and starts actually removing labor from your business. And this is what's changed in the past few weeks. New capabilities have been showing up one after another in nearly daily releases of the software. The result is that Claude is no longer a chat tool. It's becoming a work reduction tool, and that distinction matters because in real estate, most people are not short of ideas, they're short of time. They're buried in reporting, buried in underwriting, buried in document review and investor communications and follow-up. The question is not whether you can use the tools. The question is, what can you stop doing yourself? And this is where it's starting to get interesting. Let's start with spreadsheets and presentations. One of the big pain points of any investment business is that the numbers live in one place and the story lives somewhere else. You underwrite the project in Excel, you explain it in PowerPoint, then you revise one and forget to revise the other. Then someone asks for a new scenario analysis, and then you're rebuilding the presentation 11 o'clock at night. That's not necessarily high-value work. It's assembly. The newer Claude capabilities are changing that. When the model can work across your spreadsheet and your presentation in a shared context, it can help turn analysis into communication without very much manual rework. That means less time formatting, less time copying charts, less time rebuilding slides, and less time hunting for inconsistencies between the model and the presentation. That alone can take hours off of your week. Now think about reporting, investor updates, lender updates, internal status reports, property performance summaries, market briefings. Most operators spend a tremendous amount of energy just packaging information. It's not creating necessarily any new insight, but they're packaging existing information into something that's digestible. That packaging work is necessary, but it's not strategic. If Claude can take files, understand context, generate visuals, and help transform raw inputs into finished communication, a good portion of that packaging comes off your plate. Then there's document review. Real estate is a document-heavy business. Leases, amendments, title reports, surveys, loan agreements, insurance certificates, zoning ordinances, construction contracts, invoices, meeting notes. A surprising amount of the business is just reading, extracting, comparing, analyzing, organizing, and following up. For anyone in real estate, that sort of work clogs the day. What Claude is increasingly able to do is absorb large amounts of context and help make sense out of it. So instead of spending your afternoon digging through 20 documents to find two issues that matter, you can start by asking the system to identify rollover risk, carve out unusual title exceptions, summarize lender covenants, or compare the contractor's revised scope against the previous version. Doesn't mean you stop thinking. It means you spend less time shoveling information and more time focusing on what matters, and that's by applying your judgment. And then we go from the biggest shift of all, which is moving from answering questions to doing tasks. When these systems gain the ability to interact with software, open files, click through interfaces, navigate workflows, it's no longer just a passive assistant. It's truly a digital operator. Some of the new capabilities allow you to dispatch projects from your cell phone without being connected to your computer. You can continue to run those agentic operations even when your laptop is closed, because those things actually run in the cloud. I'm going to give you a sampling of just some of what's changed in the last 2 weeks. On March 25th, they added interactive apps on both iOS and Android. It means Claude can pull up live charts, sketch diagrams, and build shareable visual assets directly inside the conversation on a mobile device. On March 23rd, they introduced a preview for Cowork and Claude Code. Claude can now open files, run tools, point, click, navigate what's on your screen as if you were performing that same task with the mouse. On March 17th, they rolled out persistent Cowork threads. Means you can control threads on Cowork from your iPhone. Means you can dispatch multiple tasks in parallel from your phone. On March 12th, Claude gained the capability to create interactive charts, diagrams, and visualizations online in the chat window. On March 11th, they upgraded Excel and PowerPoint add-ins to allow you a complete sharing of the full context of a conversation between both apps. They also added support for skills in those add-ins and a gateway for connectivity to Bedrock, Vertex AI, and Microsoft Foundry users. They added a whole bunch of capabilities in the platform, not necessarily the consumer app. On March 30th, they raised the cap to 300,000 tokens for Opus 4.6 and Sonnet 4.6. That's a big deal for long-form output and large structured jobs. On March 18th, they added model capability fields to the Models API so that systems can now discover model limits and supported capabilities through that programming interface. They added something called Blender MCP. Blender is the #1 platform for creating visualization in gaming applications. Well, that has applications in design as well, in particular for real estate development. You now have the ability, through a text interface in Claude Cowork, to direct Blender to give it explicit directions on the images that you want to generate. Means you can seed that platform with a site plan with some visual photographs, and it will produce a rendering based on that input. They introduced integration with a whole host of new applications, including Zapier, or Zapier, depending how you like to pronounce it. That gives you access to close to 8,000 different applications just through the Zapier interface. The pace of change right now is unprecedented, not just because the tools are getting smarter, they're getting more useful. The integration is getting more real, and it's starting to remove real work from day-to-day burdening of running an investment business. And when that happens, the advantage goes not to the person with the fanciest technology, it's the one who redesigns their business flow to make use of it. As you think about that, ask yourself this simple question. What are you still doing manually that you should have stopped doing by now? Have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.